when I was reading through your slides, like I didn't even internalize all the things that they said because it was so hard to follow. So like,
So my kids took notes.
yeah, that's
I
awesome.
stopped taking notes after like 3 minutes in. I was like, this is not good. But so I was using their notes. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I remember that happening. That definitely happened. So good. Let's
yeah.
use that.
That was so useful because then I was like, oh, okay. Like I hadn't even noticed that when they asked about Trump's record, all he talked about was judges. Like he just talked about judges and said that like he's great. And I was like, wow, he like didn't answer that question at all. And like I just didn't realize until I like went back and looked at your notes. It was super helpful.
Right.
FYI, we are live on YouTube.
Oh.
Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
So Sean, I'm gonna turn off my camera for when the kids come, so
Okay.
that they can just see you and your slides.
All right.
But I will introduce you and then I'll hand it over.
Sounds good to me.
Sexy.
So
yeah, go
am
ahead.
I controlling the slides or somebody else controlling the slides? Like,
Oh, were you not sharing your screen just then?
no, that wasn't me.
I just put up a placeholder. You can go ahead and control the slides.
Oh, okay.
Share.
Yeah, we're all co-hosts, so we'll turn off our cameras and stuff, but we can help you. Like I'll manage the waiting room for you so that you don't have to be worried about letting kids in and stuff.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if we get any good questions from YouTube.
Okay.
Cool. So LG, what does this look like for you? Like, do you have YouTube also open right now?
Yeah, and I had the sound on. That's why it was doubling up.
Oh, so that was me on YouTube. That's
Yeah.
cool.
We were going to try and do Facebook too, but I don't think you can try stream.
Oh, I think that makes sense.
I don't love that I can't see my screen because I'm going to be looking the wrong way.
I know.
Oh.
That's like the perpetual teacher problem with video conference class.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I could. I have multiple screens, so let's see if I could do it on this one. Yeah, I could do that. That's much better.
So LG, should I record or should I not worry about that because it's going to be on YouTube?
You can record.
Okay.
As a backup.
Actually, I don't have the record button.
Oh, maybe it's either or.
Yeah, maybe it's either.
Oh, wait, I've got a record button.
Oh.
I've resumed recording and we're live on YouTube still.
LG, can you check if I'm still a co-host?
I could make you a host. I don't.
I just want to help with the waiting room. But I don't have to if you want to let him in, LG. I don't know how many things you're managing with YouTube. Oh, sweet.
There you go.
Sweet. So yeah, Sean, we had 80 kids sign up for the live stream.
Okay.
And then I also just pushed it to the Slack community, which has like 1,000 folks in it. So we'll see how many people come through.
All right. I told my students they had to come. And then I got emails all day that I just didn't answer. Like, do I have to come?
You're like, yes, you do.
Yeah, I just didn't answer that.
Minus 10 points if you don't come.
Yeah. I still haven't seen my kids yet, so.
Yeah, not in person, right? Or
no, I'm still quarantined. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just sitting at home.
Right.
So I'll continue to see you guys. Well, I won't see Kate because you're.
Yeah, but if you want to change your view like to grid, you'll be able to see the kids because we made it a meeting. So and
So
not a webinar.
I don't have that because I'm sharing. All I have is show thumbnail video.
Oh yeah, that's just going to be you.
Yeah, it's you and LG, but you know, it's okay as long as I'm not talking to a screen of nobody. You know, like
Yeah.
that would be weird. That's
Yeah.
like what do you call that? What do you call those things that people listen to? A podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Those things that people listen to.
I'm not really a podcast person. That is clear. From that, I started one this year and I couldn't get into it.
What was your podcast about?
Oh no, I didn't start. No, I started listening to one.
Oh, you were listening to
Yeah,
one.
no, I'm not. Nobody wants to listen to me.
Well, 80 people do.
Yeah, there is a Fiveable podcast called Homeroom. Sean, sometimes I find it worthwhile just not to present with the slides and like, yeah, it's a little tacky. Maybe someone will see your tabs, but then you can see all of the people. Feel free to toggle back and forth. Oh, it's time. Should we let them in?
Oh yeah, I'll let them in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep with the full screen because I don't know really what else. I use Zoom, a lot, but
All right, here they come.
Hello,
Welcome,
hello,
everybody.
hello. Oh, you have a nice microphone. I don't have a microphone. I need to get one. Hey, Amy.
Hey, good afternoon or evening.
Good evening. Unless, where are you from?
We're going to be. Literally.
Where am I from?
Yeah, where are you from? Where are you calling from?
I don't know. Where am I calling from?
The good old Isle of Staten.
Now, if you want to put your face, you just gotta click that little
Do you want
thing
me
and
to
it goes
say?
on. I'm saying.
You wanna? How does he do it?
Hi, Stephen.
Sorry, Steven, I just muted you. Sounds fun over there, though. All right, I'm gonna keep letting folks come in. Sorry, I find the waiting room so distracting. But I want Sean to be able to get started because we have so much to talk about and not enough time to talk about it. So I'm super excited to introduce all of you to Sean Jacobson. He is our AP Gov teacher, and he is also a current events guru, and he has agreed to take on the incredibly difficult task of sort of sifting through what we heard last night, recapping what each candidate said, and then telling us sort of like what's the deal with each of those actual topics. So without further ado, Sean, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am Sean. I'm from New York City, and just going to start out by saying very clearly, I teach politics. I do not preach politics. So I am not here to try and sway you one way or another. Plus, most of you probably can't vote anyway. So, there's that. We're going to talk about, so first off, if you don't already follow these, things on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Fiveable is an awesome company trying to help out as many kids as possible. And I am lucky enough to work for them. So I'm very happy about that. Here's what we're going to be talking about. These were the topics that were brought up by the moderator for the debate last night. They include Trump and Biden records, previously. What's going on with the Supreme Court right now? COVID-19. What is the best way forward with that? What has happened with it? The economy, race and violence, and the integrity of the elections. These are 6 really important issues that have been going on in America. How could you not talk about any of these? So here we go. That was a lot. There's a lot of memes. And if you've never watched a presidential debate before, this was terrible. If you have watched a presidential debate before, this was terrible. So, pretty even right there. And I'm gonna sit here and go through all the fact checking that I did from multiple sources, because that's what we have to do as Americans. So the first thing we have here is the Trump and Biden records. Now, I put Biden on the left and Trump on the right for obvious political reasons, right? So Biden is here saying that we have become weaker and sicker under Trump. He says that as vice president, he took on a recession and then fixed it from 08 to 16, and that there's 15% less violence. Well, how true is that? If you go to the bottom, the second bullet on the bottom, the crime rate did fall. It fell 15% during the Obama-Biden administration. So that is a truth. That is a truth nugget. It also happened to fall every year of the Trump administration. So it's a positive, when it comes to Biden, but Trump could follow that up with saying, I continued that. Trump has said there's never been a president that has done more than him. Now, that is not the first time he has said that. That is something he likes to say. He has said that Obama and Biden left over 100 empty appointments for judges on the federal bench. And he has said that he has filled those slots plus more with retirements and stuff like that, totaling over 300 judges. This is also the truth. So far, we're starting out pretty well. But this is the truth because Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican from Kentucky, blocked most of any of President Obama's judicial appointments, especially towards the end of 15 and 16. So, any questions about this so far? This is just their past. This is where they were at. This is what I was able to hear as they were talking over each other. Do you have any questions about this? I don't see the questions. Somebody's going to tell me, I think.
Sean, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Kate. While the kids are thinking, I think they're going to put them in the chat.
Okay.
When Chris Wallace asked about their records, was this the information he was looking for? Like it seemed to me like he was looking for different information. And I wonder, like, what would this question be asking for? Like, when a moderator asks for their records, what does that mean?
I would imagine that this is their time to shine and say, here's all the good things about me. Here's my resume, essentially. This is what you should know. This is what I have done previously. Unfortunately, in the last 10 or so years, maybe 15 years, we've sort of also taken it as, let me say something negative about my opponent. Now, that is a completely valid way of running for office. You can demean your opponent or, say something great about yourself. There's no right way of going about it, but that's what they chose to do. Any other questions?
Someone says, are the crime drop rates between the Obama-Biden admin and the Trump admin comparable? So in other words, you said that the Obama-Biden rate was 15%. Do you know what the Trump rate is so far?
I do not know that. I probably should have looked at that number. But what I do know is if they fell by 15% with Obama and Biden, they probably fell less with Trump just because with less violence, it's harder to fall those large percentages. Mm-hmm. So it's probably had a great result for Trump, but the numbers might not be as reflective as 15%, because 15% is kind of a big number, but that's coming from a higher amount of violence. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I think you're good to go to the next topic.
All right, let's go to the next topic. The Supreme Court, this is the biggest issue, well, not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest issues ever since the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And when that happened, 2 Fridays ago, that was it's somewhat of a game changer for the conversation that we have when it comes to what should happen next. So Biden believes that because people have already started voting by mail in ballots, that the process should be paused until the 2020 election is over. And he says that the Supreme Court is trying to get rid of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, in the Supreme Court. Trump's response, or Trump's, what he said was presidents serve for 4 years. They don't serve for 3 years. So it is, the Republican Party controls the Senate. They have every right to pick a new Supreme Court justice and confirm her. And that some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people. In my research into this, the fact about her biggest endorsers are very liberal people, there is some truth to that. Noah Feldman, who is a law professor at Harvard, he is a prominent liberal. He has endorsed Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who is the nominee for the Supreme Court. And the Justice Department is currently arguing that the Supreme Court in the Supreme Court for the Affordable Care Act to be overturned. The question of the numbers of who that affects, that's disputed. I believe Biden said 20 million people there. It's hard to understand what the actual number is. So that's a little gray area that, is probably false, but it's hard to prove how false. Any questions about that? The Supreme Court's a big deal. There is argument. Trump is saying that the Democrats want to pack the court, which goes back to FDR, and just keep adding a bunch of judges to the Supreme Court. Biden did not answer whether or not he was going to do that. So that remains questionable,
Yeah, Sean, can you talk about that in case students aren't familiar with the last time that court packing was sort of attempted in the country?
So FDR wanted to pack the court because he felt there weren't enough of his ideology on the court supporting him. So he said for every person over a certain age, they were going to add 2 because there's no term limits on presidents, on Supreme Court justices. So the thought is that because President Trump put in 3 Supreme Court justices, all, or at least 2, possibly a third, all within the proper ways of doing so, that if the Democrats win and the Democrats take over the Senate, those are 2, it's hard to say that those both are going to happen. They would then decide to pack the court to either even it out on their side or to scare Republicans into not doing this confirmation process.
And is that constitutional, court packing?
It is a gray area as to whether or not they could do it. It hasn't been tested in quite some time. It's an interesting thing, just like the 27th Amendment. The 27th Amendment says Congress cannot dictate their pay until the next cycle of Congress comes in. So it's like saying, hey, I'm going to control how much I make. The Supreme Court would have to rule as to what the Supreme Court could do, and what could happen with the Supreme Court. So it gets a little funky with that. Yes, it would be controlling what the Senate can do, but it also directly affects them. So how to have that happen is tough.
Mm-hmm. Here's a student question.
Mm-hmm.
How does this compare to the 2016 McConnell-Obama court appointment interaction?
Okay, so
accurate? Oh, go ahead.
No, keep going.
The part 2 of the question is it accurate to characterize this as an exact flip from 2016 in rhetoric from both parties?
Okay, so that's a great question. That's a phenomenal question. What you have to understand, let's back up for a second. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died in February of 2016. At that point, the primaries were happening, and they weren't sure, what should happen. Normally, what would happen is President Obama would pick somebody, and then they would get confirmed or denied. The difference between that period and now is that it was a Republican-led Senate. So it wasn't a Democratic president and a Democratic-led Senate. And Mitch McConnell had said at that point, we are not going to have any hearings. President Obama put up a rather moderate Supreme Court justice nominee in Merrick Garland, who had passed federal approval for the federal bench pretty unanimous. I don't know if it was unanimous or like 90-4 or something, but it was pretty unanimous. And because of that, they waited until the next president, came into office. It's similar, but there are differences. The fact that the Senate is run by the same party as the president right now is the biggest difference. Yes, it's different because the amount of time, you're talking early March until November. What is that, like 6 months? No, probably more than that. That's 8 months versus 45 days or so. That is, that is different. If Democrats had controlled the Senate, they would have wanted this to go through in 2016, and it wouldn't be something they fought about. Now, obviously, they're saying, Republicans had said, oh, you can't do this in an election year. Well, while that is true, they don't control the Senate, so they can't really dictate what the Senate does.
Here's another question.
Yes.
Do the quote biggest liberal endorsers of Amy Coney Barrett also endorse the fast tracking of the appointment? So are they on board with trying to get the appointment confirmed between now and the election?
So what becomes pretty interesting with that, excuse me, is that while we talk about the election, really President Trump President Trump is still president after the election up until at least January 20th at 11:59 a.m. So he still serves for that 3 years. Where it becomes a little interesting is the senators. They're still senators until January 3rd when they get re-sworn in, except for one. It seems incredibly likely that Mark Kelly of Arizona will take Martha McSally's seat in a special election, and that could happen as soon as, I believe, November 30th. That brings the numbers down to 52-48 in favor of the Republicans, which means only two can defect. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska has said that she doesn't want this to happen. She's a Republican. There have been others that have said we don't know about this. So it's gonna be interesting when push comes to shove what actually does happen. Now, I believe Judge Amy Coney Barrett has met with 1/3 of the senators so far in a pretty fast track way. But the period we're looking at really isn't the election. It's more January 20th or January 19th or January 3rd, depending on how you want to look at it.
Another question.
Yes.
Are Mitt Romney and or Susan Collins, how are they leaning right now? Are they leaning toward, yes, they support the pushing the appointment through, or no, let's wait? Right.
So those two people, Mitt Romney, a Republican from Utah, and Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine, and Lisa Murkowski, a Republican from Alaska, tend to be the three Republicans who don't always go in step with President Trump all the time. We just talked about Lisa Murkowski and what she believes. Mitt Romney has said that he supports this going forward, and I believe Susan Collins said she would listen to what Amy Coney Barrett, what her positions are on everything. She's in a really interesting situation because she's up for re-election right now, and she's trailing her Democratic rival by 7 to 8 points or so. So she's not looking as if she's going to get reelected. It has become a national fight, for that Maine seat because Susan Collins has had opinions that people don't really gravitate towards, at least in Maine. She had controversial things with the previous Supreme Court Justice in Brett Kavanaugh. So this becomes a little sticky for her. You guys are asking great questions.
Yeah. Here's one more question, and then I'm going to let you go to the next one for the sake of time.
Yeah.
But this is a good question too. What is the Senate's role in approving an appointment for the Supreme Court?
Great. So the Senate has it needs to advise and consent when it comes to the Supreme Court under the Harry Reid under the Harry Reid Senate. They changed the rules so that all you need to approve a Supreme Court justice is 51 votes. It used to be 66, I believe. either 60 or 67, excuse me. So now you just need 50. 50 is a lot easier to get to than 67, a lot easier. So you really do not need any Democrats to agree to any of this. They can get this to happen so long as there's no one in the Republican Party, in the Republican Senate, to say no.
Great. Let's hit the next one.
Let's do that. So COVID-19. Okay, so Biden is saying that we are responsible for 20% of the deaths in the world. President Trump has been quoted as saying it is what it is on actually Chris Wallace's Fox News Sunday show. He's saying that Trump does not have a plan when it comes to COVID-19, that the economy was shut down, but if we had more masks, we wouldn't have to, or if we had more of a mask mandate, that we wouldn't have had to. He does not trust Trump when it comes to a vaccine, and that Trump did say that the virus would be gone by Easter. Trump is saying that if he didn't do the things that he did, millions of people would have died. He said, I believe 2 million people would have died. And that Biden did not want to close the country, especially to China in late January, early February, and that we are weeks away from a vaccine. All right. So the the facts about this are the Trump administration has a plan for how it will distribute vaccines, which would be free of cost. Biden is claiming that there's no COVID-19 plan other than that. But he did say no plan at all. So that's kind of false. Read the shutdowns. Biden has said in order to keep the country running and moving and the economy growing and people employed, you have to fix the virus. You have to deal with the virus. And then he said, I would shut it down and listen to the scientists. So he has said that he would shut down the country. President Trump has attacked him for saying that. He said that would result in a lot of lost jobs, and that would not be good for the economy. Any questions with that? I don't see that. I'm gonna do some.
Yeah, no questions about that one yet. I think you can go on to
Okay.
the next one.
Oh no, I did something. I don't know what I did. I was trying to. Let's go into the economy, I guess. I was just trying to change my name.
Oh, here we go. That's
Oh.
great that happened because a couple questions came in while it was happening. Do we know where the hypothetical 2 million number that Trump said comes from, or if it has credibility?
So the early estimates when this was first happening in March were that we would hit 2 million deaths if we had done nothing, or had done very little and not shut down schools and not shut down most businesses and stuff like that, not had a mask mandate, not encourage masks and not encourage social distancing. There was a number that was 2 million at that point. So that was a number that was said. Whether or not it was realistic, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to go down that road, but that was a number that had been cited. I don't want to cite it to Dr. Fauci or Dr. Bricks. I know it was said by somebody. And I think that was pre, coronavirus team.
Let's see. Well, this question might need clarification. Are people's lives worth more than the economy? I'm not sure if you could answer sort of what the candidates would think about that, but I don't know if there's maybe worth as far as like monetary value to the economy as a whole, or.
Well, there is some debate about like herd,
right.
Herd, not herd mentality, but herd, if enough people get the virus, they will, not everybody dies from the virus. So if enough people get the virus, they will have some herd immunity towards it. And that is a better way of going about this than just shutting everything down and not having that. That would be President Trump's idea, is to have some bit of herd immunity. And therefore businesses could still go on as normal. What Vice President Biden has said is he would not shut down the economy if we could get the proper PPE to businesses to get everything that they want. And if we could get them all that stuff, then we would keep it open.
So I think there's also like a conversation in the chat happening based on that.
Okay.
That is the question is basically like, is it worth it to infect people, to sort of let it run wild so that we can reach herd immunity faster? Do you think that's part of the calculation that they might be making?
I think that there are enough people that believe that. There are a group of people that believe that for sure. The side effects of this are, we kind of look at it in America as, well, if you didn't die, then how bad is it? But there are, there are organ issues that happen. There are long-term effects that we don't really know just yet what would happen. So there is a certain amount of risk that goes along with that I don't know if anybody could answer the value as to is that risk okay?
Yeah, that sounds like in hindsight, maybe
Right. Yeah.
we'll be able to know.
And that's an interesting quote, because hindsight is 2020, and well, here we are.
Right.
In 2020.
Very true. Wow. Another great thing about 2020 that I didn't realize.
Yep.
Here's another question. Does Fauci and other experts nationally and or internationally, do they have views on herd immunity? And does our national stance seem to differ at all from the international stance?
I'm going to answer that second question because I cannot, in good faith, answer the first question, and I'm not going to lead you down, a terrible road. Other countries have significantly smaller populations, and they have done, they have cut down quite a bit. My sister lives in France. She was in Paris, and they were shut down for quite a bit of time. In a very much more serious way, in where they couldn't leave the house except for 2 times a day for like 20 minutes. And if they were out of the house at other times, they had to have written permission from a doctor or something like that. That's how they attacked that. But at the same time, now you're seeing the numbers in Europe go up, and in France go up too. So as far as their effectiveness, maybe at the time they were effective, but right now it seems as if either things got lax and therefore it came back, or there was something they weren't accounting for. Internationally speaking, yeah, you can look at New Zealand. That's the obvious one, but New Zealand's population is far less than ours, and it's hard to compare New Zealand and North America, and the United States. Brazil has a similar population, and Bolsonaro, I can't pronounce his name, the president there, has had a similar to Trump mentality of going about this, but they are also third in the world, I believe, in infection rates. I don't know where they lie in deaths. India has had a tough time also. Unfortunately, they also have a lot of people living in close quarters. So, parts of the world have done pretty well with this. Parts of the world have not done too well with this.
All right.
I don't know if that answered that question, but
yeah, I think it answered it as well as we can.
Yeah.
I think we're ready for the next one.
Yeah, part of being a politics teacher is apparently then you also have to be a science teacher, and
right.
So all these things come up, and you're like, they're good questions, but whew. All right, Biden and Trump, when it comes to the economy, billionaires are making more money. Small town people aren't doing well in the recovered economy. Frontline workers are losing their jobs. He's saying, why open up if we're just benefiting some people? More taxes, more jobs. He wants this idea of buying America. Every penny needs to be made in America. He doesn't want to outsource jobs. The economic recovery after the recession was an Obama-Biden, creation in some ways, and that the great trade deals that the president has talked about have not really been that great. That's what Biden is saying. Trump is saying He wants to keep it open, the economy open, because we know a lot more about the virus than we did previous, and there's no reason to shut it down. More people would be dead if the country wasn't closed. We've had record business afterwards. He's talking about Democratic states, Democratic run states have had tough shutdowns, and it doesn't seem like it's going amazing for those states. And that they're going to open up after the election, November 4th. Let's open up. The divorce, drug, and overdose rates are up during quarantine. New York, I think he meant New York State, but he could have meant New York City, is in horrible shape. He is claiming that he brought Big Ten football back. So Big Ten is the, like Michigan and Michigan State and Ohio State and all that. And that he has paid millions in taxes, and that if we're going to complain about his lack of paying taxes, that the Biden-Obama administration did not change those loopholes. So you can't complain about something that he took advantage of. So to fact check all that, it's disputed how much, it's a disputed fact how much President Trump has paid in taxes. The New York Times reported on Saturday or Sunday that President Trump paid $750 in both 2016 and 2017, and no federal taxes in 10 of the 15 years before that. But it's hard to prove that because Trump has not made his taxes public. So we're dealing with our best knowledge, and we don't know if that's 100% true. The economy is currently in a recession, but there's no proof that President Trump is the direct cause for that recession. Most economies around the world are in some bit of a recession. Just saw before the second quarter of the year retracted by a tremendous amount. I think it was 31%. President Trump pressed the Big Ten commissioners to return to play in football in October, but the Big Ten is saying that he was not pivotal in the league's decision when it comes to that. So,
All right, we have a bunch of questions here.
sweet.
Can you talk more about Biden's Buying America plan and sort of what that means? They mentioned it a little bit, but it was hard to like distill what the plan is.
Yeah. I'd have to, can I go through my notes? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
Or is it the test?
You can go through your notes.
Okay,
We
good.
want
Good.
informed answers.
All right, yeah, good. So, because I want to see what that was. I have to go to the whole text of the debate.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a big document.
While you look for it, I'll tell you
Sure.
there's a related question. So the first question is, what does Buying America mean? We're not totally sure. And then the second question is, some people are worried about the clean energy jobs and how they're going to affect sort of non-clean jobs like coal and oil jobs, and how these large farms might affect smaller family farms. So maybe when you discuss what the plan is, you can touch on those points.
Right. So, Vice President, there you go. Vice President Biden has said that he did not think that coal jobs would be ever coming back because of their, what he said, cleanliness. Okay. Let me go to, and that green jobs, there was a whole debate about the Green New Deal. Vice President Biden has said that is not his plan. He has his own plan, Joe Biden plan, about what that means, which is inextricably tied to climate change. President Trump did not offer anything on his end, but he did say that by not agreeing with the Green New Deal, he is losing lots of the radical, quote, the radical left, by saying that when Vice President Biden was talking about buying American, I'm just going to read the quote. Well, just take a look at the analysis done by Wall Street firms, blah, blah, blah. Number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. The federal government spends $600 billion a year for everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. Under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny has to be made by a company. And then he got cut off, but I'm going to guess in the United States, I'm going to guess that he was going to say, because,
Okay, so it sounds like it's about literally rewarding government contracts
Yeah,
to American companies.
yeah, exactly, and having them in American companies.
Okay. You can answer this question probably better than me. What is the Big Ten for those of us who don't know about sports?
So the Big Ten is a conference in the NCAA. It is mostly Mid-Atlantic schools. The University of I'll just read them to you: Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. So most of those make sense, except for Rutgers. As a New York City person, like Rutgers doesn't make any sense to be in the Big Ten. That's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. But the reason why this is a big deal is because there's been a lot of politics and controversy surrounding whether or not college students should be playing sports. And the Big Ten is one of the top 3 college sports, college football programs. You have the SEC, which is mostly Southeastern colleges, and you have the Big 12, which is mostly Southern Midwestern places like the University of Kansas. So that's why it was a conversation.
Okay, here's an energy question. On the topic of clean energy, does Biden's distinction between his environmental policy and the Green New Deal affect his stance in the political cohort? So like when Biden said that, Trump said, you just lost the left. So this question is, will Biden's more conservative stance, that is not promoting the Green New Deal, affect his position with the party?
So that's a complicated question because there is a lot of debate as to whether or not the quote Bernie bros or anybody in that camp is going to come out and vote for Biden because they didn't vote for Hillary because they felt that Bernie Sanders should have been the nominee. But there has been a lot more conversation this year from Bernie Sanders saying, you didn't vote for Hillary last time. Look how that wound up. So as far as getting the vote, probably not. If Vice President Joe Biden wins election, then it might get a little sticky as to whether or not there is the ability to win those people back. That's going to be that's going to depend on how the House of Representatives goes. That's going to depend on how the Senate goes, and obviously how the presidency goes. There's a lot of aspects to that.
Yeah, was this the first time Biden had officially said that the Green New Deal was not his plan? Like, just as a person, I knew it wasn't his plan, but I remember during the debate, it felt like a big moment when he said it wasn't his plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna so now you have to go all the way back to February when there were debates,
right?
The other debates. When that was happening, Bernie Sanders was still in that, so he was probably distancing himself from Bernie Sanders to show that he was not part of that coalition. But the way these primaries and caucuses work is you're not part of the party, and then all of a sudden you are the representative of the party. So it gets a little hairy when it talks about that. I think for the most part, he stayed away from talking about the Green New Deal. It is a polarizing issues. It is polarizing issue. So he has mostly stayed away from that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, switching away from that, Trump mentioned motor companies moving into Ohio, Iowa, and Michigan. Do you know what companies he was talking about? And if that's the case, would that also be considered like buying American?
Yeah, so there have been places in that's a really complicated question because Volkswagen was supposed to come to Tennessee, which is not quite, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there's a reason why he's talking about Ohio, Iowa, and Michigan, right? Those are swing states that he needs to win. If he can get people from those states to win, to vote for him, and he can win them, then he's got a better chance of winning. The places where new factories have popped up are Alabama with Mazda and Volvo, with Toyota, Mazda and Volvo in South Carolina, Volkswagen in Tennessee. So that's not quite the same thing. Now, whether or not that's considered buying American, that goes back to where that money, so you're supporting American jobs because the people building those cars are working in America, but the company that you're directly buying the car from is from, if it's Volkswagen, it's Germany, and if it's Toyota, it's Japan or South Korea. I'm not a car person, but I'm a politics teacher, so I'm in everything. So that gets a little difficult. I know my car says, flat out on it, built in Tennessee. And that's like a big deal, but it's also an American car. So.
Yeah, that sounds very complicated.
Yeah.
All right, I think you can go to the next one.
Okay, good, because I'm going to talk to Thomas tomorrow about that question. It's a great question, Thomas. Race and violence. So this is where, this was, yeah. The Constitution, so Biden said the Constitution said we need equality. Biden saying that Trump said the KKK was made up of fine people. There's racism everywhere, some bad apples, but we need to get different groups together to, quote, work it out and hold people accountable. He said that somebody in his administration said that violence helps Trump's cause. Trump said he is letting people out of jail that Biden put in. So in the 90s, the senator at that time, senator from Delaware, Biden, signed a bill criminalizing, people who are now coming out of prison because of President Trump. Supporting, he has support for military leaders and the police. Law enforcement does not support the Democrats. I'm sorry, I should have capitalized the D. And then he said, almost everything I see, quote, the violence is from the left wing. That's what he said. So Kellyanne Conway did say that violence helps Trump's cause, but the FBI director did say that most racially motivated violent extremism has mostly been from white supremacists.
Here's a great question. Who are the Proud Boys? Do they have history of violence, and what do they stand for?
Right. So the Proud Boys seem to be, they're a white supremacist group, but they also have ties to Roger Stone, who is, I don't know if he's funding it or inspiring it, but they have ties to that. But they are a white supremacist group, and they are, and that whole, what Trump was, so Chris Wallace said, hey, could you condemn any of the groups that have started this violence? And he said, and so President Trump said, sure, give me a name. And then Joe Biden said Proud Boys. And then obviously the biggest conversation of the day has been that he did not condemn them, and he said stand down and be present, something to that.
Stand by,
yeah. And people are interpreting that, that's kind of been the highlight, if there is any highlight from yesterday, but that's kind of been the thing that has taken most people's attention. So there's that.
Has any Democratic senator or congressperson publicly stated support for defunding the police?
Completely 100% defunding the police, no. But there are people who are saying that you could, if you use that money differently, in communities differently, because there's a lot of money that goes to police departments, then you could have a different result. As far as they would, so now you're splitting hairs with that. As far as if you're going to call that, quote, defunding the police versus reallocating money, it's politics. You could, parse words to let it sit however you want, pretty well.
Here's one that might be too hard, but we'll try.
Yeah.
Can someone explain why Trump wants to put Antifa as a terrorist group, but not other hate groups such as the KKK?
In an election way, or electoral way, it is something that his supporters firmly believe. So it is solidifying the people who support him. It is, I don't want to say catering because that sounds terrible, but it is doing what they elected him to do. There are plenty of people who have problems with Antifa and what Antifa is or stands for or does. Why he doesn't say the other groups are hate groups, I guess you'd have to be specific about that. Which ones are we talking about? Because I think there was a conversation a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about making the KKK into a hate group, declaring them a hate group. I think President Trump had said that.
Here's one that I think comes up a lot. Is Antifa an ideology or a group of people?
Yeah, so that's depending on who you ask, right? So it's both and neither. There will be some people, Antifa, anti-fascist. There are some people that are going to say that is simply an ideology, and there are going to be other people who say, I represent Antifa, and therefore the actions that I take are in the name of Antifa. It's hard to say that it's neither. It's hard to say that it's both. It's almost, unfortunately, and I hate saying this, but it's in the eye of the beholder a lot of times.
I'm reading through the chat. There's a lot happening. I'm sifting through for questions for you. I think we can go on because how many more topics do you have? Two?
Integrity. No, just one.
Oh, just one. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me see then if we can do another of these questions. What is the political advantage behind not denouncing a group, whether it be the Proud Boys or Antifa? Why were the candidates hesitant to denounce these groups? Does it imply that these are members of their base, or is the question more just because it feels like a political trap?
I think it's part of the base. To ever say that every Trump supporter is, put any adjective or any name on them is a ridiculous statement. And I'm not saying that person is saying that, but there are people who go out there and say, well, anybody who supports Trump is also a Proud Boy. Like, no, that's ridiculous. There are sects within the supporters. There is the thought process that by not doing that, by not condemning them or denouncing them, it is trying to keep their support. It's kind of hard to see that, kind of from both Trump and Biden. We're in a place where everybody needs as many votes as they can get. So unfortunately, being as simplistic as that, but also being as frank as that is probably the truth. I would think that. I don't think, but at the same time, I don't know if anybody listens to President Trump saying, so the argument from Fox today was, if you denounce the Proud Boys, yeah, you might lose them, electorally, but you might gain some moderate Democrats, or you might gain some people that are on the fence. Now, in this election, I have no idea who's left on the fence, but there might be some people. So the Fox was saying today that he should have done that because it would have given him more support from middle of the line people.
Yeah, that makes sense. 11% is the percent of undecided voters that ABC News was saying yesterday.
But I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think those are people that are refusing to say rather than that they're decided. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. Let's do the last one. We got
the last one. Okay. The integrity of said election. So Biden says that he tells the people to vote and make sure they can vote any way they can. Obviously, that means mail-in ballots or in person. And he's saying there's no evidence that mail-in ballots are manipulated. Trump has said there has been no transition between Obama and Trump, so why should there be a transition between him and potentially Biden if that's the way it went out? He said again that he's been spied on since he was elected, and I'm pretty sure he said before then too. He is urging his supporters to go to the polls. doesn't want ballots to be manipulated and does believe that people will cheat. President Trump has exaggerated the number of ballots being sent out as well as the fraud surrounding them. That's not to say that there's, it's not happening, but to the level that President Trump is saying, it's not 100% accurate. Supporters of President Trump or Vice President Biden are not legally allowed to enter these new satellite offices that happen in Philadelphia. President Trump was talking about Philadelphia quite a bit and some things that were happening there. They're not allowed to enter those things. There are poll workers that are, paid to be in those places and have gotten clearance to be in those places. And, you or I or anybody who's a supporter of either of them can't just show up to see. There is some idea that there's a little bit of, I don't want to say fear, but that might not be something that everybody wants to see when you vote.
Isn't it the case that most states have laws about how close you can campaign or even like have,
Yeah.
posters and stuff?
So, I mean, as recently as 2016, well, no, maybe not 2016, maybe like 2012, the, McMahon, I forget what Vince McMahon's wife's name was, Linda McMahon. So Vince McMahon is the owner of the WWE, right? He was not running for office, but his wife was, and his wife was very involved in the WWE on the business end. And there was, a conversation as to, were you even allowed to wear a WWE shirt as you were going to vote? Because is that, intimidation? Or are you trying to say that this, are you saying, oh, because I'm wearing this, I don't know, X-Pac, that's really dating myself there. Well, Ultimate Warrior would be dating myself, but wearing something from the WWE, formerly known as the WWF, was that intimidation? And they ruled no, that you could do that. So it kind of, what is intimidation? What is allowed outside the polling center? What is allowed inside the polling center? It is slightly different. You obviously, as pollers, and some of my students will learn this soon, you can't ask like, who do you just vote for? That's a pretty obvious thing. And you certainly can't go into, I don't know who still has this, but the curtains or whatever, you can't do that. But you also can't, if you're not hired to be there checking to see if everything went legitimately. That's, not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What are satellite election offices? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so Philadelphia had to open some satellite election offices so that more people could vote, early voting. You might have seen that the NBA and the MLS and maybe some other sport arenas have opened up or will be opening up their places so that people can go vote. But so in Philly, this is just a larger area or office building or office area where you could go vote that didn't exist before.
Oh, cool. Just a note about poll workers from Clarissa. A lot of poll workers are retirees and it's not safe for them right now because of coronavirus. So if you're 16 or older, you can be a poll worker and make money.
Absolutely.
So
I put in for it every year.
Yeah, that's an opportunity everybody should look into.
Yeah.
And then you can learn more about how this works.
Yeah.
Let's see, a couple of
And
questions.
they pay well.
And they pay you money. If Trump were to challenge the election results and it went to the Supreme Court, can SCOTUS decide with 8 justices, or would the Supreme Court justice have to be appointed first, the new one?
Great question. Supreme Court decisions can happen without the full 9. Unfortunately, it leaves the opportunity for a 4-4 tie. So and President Trump has been pretty forthright in saying like he wants that justice there. So in case it does go to the Supreme Court, that tie scenario isn't an option. I don't think a tie scenario is good for America. Like, I don't think anybody would want that. Like, you guys weren't, I'm going to guess most people in here weren't alive for the Bush Gore debacle
It was.
in 2000. Like,
It was horrible.
it was not fun to still know. I think it was Thanksgiving, basically, to not know who the president was. Like, that wasn't fun. I don't think anybody's looking forward to having that happen again. And they had a full Supreme Court then.
Right. Can you talk about Trump's platinum plan? What is that plan?
So Trump came out with a platinum plan for African Americans, as to, obviously it's a way to allure, I don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but entice African Americans to vote for him. Platinum plan Trump. I'm just getting more information on it now. Get you more stuff. This came out just recently too. Stuff for school choice. School choice is always a big issue, whether or not more charter schools should be allowed. Criminal justice reform, more favorable trade deals for Black farmers. The idea of creating 3 million new jobs, healthcare changes and stuff like that. That was his platinum plan for Black Americans, for Black America.
And so it's just to garner more support from Black voters. It sounds
I mean,
like.
there is definitely some validity in it that he wants that to happen, but it also, when something comes out, look, from Labor Day on, everything is about the election. So,
right.
In every election year ever.
Right. All right. So we only have a few minutes left. And here's a good, very general question that I think is great to end on. How do students learn more about politics if they're interested in learning more?
Well, so if we had this meeting the day before, I would have told you, for this debate, watch Fox News afterwards. For the next one, watch MSNBC or CNN or something like that. Diversifying your what you watch, what you read from both sides. Allsides.com or org. If you type in all sides, it will come up. Reading, listening, watching, just being part of it. But also, if AP US government isn't offered in your school, definitely contact Fiveable and be like, boom, I want to do that. There's an even greater class. I'm doing it. I don't care. There's an even greater class called AP Gov that talks about the world politics. That is the most fascinating class you could ever take. And I teach it. So, yes, it's a self plug, and it's not shameless. It's shameful.
Yeah, sign up for CompGov. That's a great first step to learn more about politics.
Yeah, because CompGov is current stuff.
Right.
US Gov, not so much.
Right. And we start January 4th, so there's still time to sign up.
Right after the new senators come in.
That's right. So somebody asked, are we going to do this after every debate? Yes, we are going to do this after every debate. And I'll email you that information so that you have it. But Sean's going to be here going through this after each debate. And he's also going to be doing current events sort of regularly. So for the next few months, that's probably going to be mostly politics because of what is going on. But after that, it might be actually about other stuff. So Sean's going to be here all the time talking about current events, and I'll send you more information about that. And let's see, here's a question about the classes, Sean, that you can answer.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can say goodnight. So what's the difference between CompGov and normal AP Gov?
Okay, so normal AP Gov, boring normal AP Gov is AP US Gov. It's a great class. It's fundamental that every student should probably take. AP CompGov is like, it's a step above. It's even better. It's the governments of the United Kingdom, Russia, China, Nigeria, Iran, and Mexico. Current day, how those countries work, what their relationship is with each other, what their relationship is to the world, how those governments are set up, how they react to things like COVID, how they react to things like the US election, like all these things. If you were to take AP CompGov and I was your teacher, we would be talking current events every day. It won't be on the AP exam in a multiple choice question, but you will write about it and you will look like the smartest person because the reader is going to be like, that person is really knows what they're talking about. They didn't learn that in a textbook. They learned that by reading. And then, you don't have to give me the credit. You could just say that you read it. I'm not saying it's superior to American politics, but I don't know. It's so fascinating to learn about what's going on in Iran right now, to go, what's going on in China. All these countries are so super important.
And
so
it's
is the United States.
Interesting to consider different models too, I think, right? To think about
absolutely.
how other types of governments, might work.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, Sean, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for being here. The conversation in the chat has been really awesome and informative. If you're not a member of Fiveable, but you want to keep chatting, please check us out. Go ahead and go to fiveable.me and let's get you in Slack so that you can keep chatting with your peers. And I hope that we keep seeing you at these current event streams. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you for being here. You asked really great questions. Great questions.
These were great questions.
Yeah.
Have a great Wednesday night and a wonderful Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.